let's go to author search. Now, this can be useful in a couple of different ways. You can search for the author of an article, or you can search for an author as a subject. If I want to find all the articles that have been written by Stephen Greenblatt, an important new historicist scholar of Renaissance studies, I can put his name in the text box and search for his name as the author of articles. And what this will do is return a list of everything that's been indexed by the MLA and that's been written by Stephen Greenblatt. So it will give me all of his work. I can also look for the author as a subject. I can also do a search for the author as a subject. So for instance, I can do a search for Charles Dickens as the subject of an article. And what this will do is return to me every essay, every article that's been written about Charles Dickens that's indexed in the MLA Bibliography. So you can see how that would be you're going to get a lot of materials returned, and you probably won't want to wade through them all. But it's interesting to know that you can do that. Okay. There are a couple of limitations that you can employ down here. You can limit your search returns to articles with text, with full text. It may or may not be accurate, though, so keep that in mind. That is, we might in fact have an article with full text associated with it, but it won't appear that way in the MLA database. So use this with a grain of salt. Okay? You can limit it to refereed publications. Refereed publications are usually of a higher quality than non-refereed publications. What this means is that everything that's published in a particular journal has been vetted by experts in the field. So they're usually more reputable, more reliable. You can also limit by date. Okay? Now this can be especially useful, for instance, if you want to find everything that's been written about Charles Dickens, but everything that's been written about Dickens in the 1950s. Okay? So this can give you a sense of how scholars in the 1950s, approached Charles Dickens, and that can give you a historical perspective. So that can be useful for, say, reception studies, or for understanding how approaches have changed in the past 50 years, and so on. You can limit to different journals, and you can limit to different languages. Okay? I'll show you that a little bit later. You can do subject guides. You can search by subject. And this is very general. It's kind of like a keyword search, but as we'll see when we actually return some searches, each essay or article has been indexed and given a list of subject headings. These are different from Library of Congress subject headings, and we can talk about that later in a different video tutorial. So you can find all the articles that have been cataloged or indexed as having something to do with colonialism. And the same limitations can apply down here. Title search is a little bit similar to the author search in that you can search for the title of an article or all records associated with the title of a literary work. So I can put in Raise the Lock, and as the title of a literary work, and I can return all of the articles that have been written on Pope's Raise the Lock. Okay, 157. All right, let's go back. Again, the same limitations can apply down here. So let's go back to the advanced search. There are a couple things you want to keep in mind when you're doing a search that have to do with technical things. You can do searches by a variety of different, in a variety of different forms. Okay? You do a variety of different forms. You can search for keywords. You can search for literary works, publication date. You can do a variety of different searches. Keyword is the most general, okay? But again, you can search for the title of a literary work, which is what we just did in title search. Okay? These are text boxes. This is where you enter the material that you want to search for. And these are what's called Boolean operators. Okay? These are search terms that allow you to achieve varying degrees of exclusivity and inclusivity. So you can search for Race of the Lock and Jonathan Swift. So that will return to you all articles that that are written about Ray Bullock and in some sense Jonathan Swift, even though Alexander Pope wrote it. Okay, so you can find some interesting correlations that way. You can search for or not as well. And again, there are these limitations down here. Okay, let's do a literary work search for Pope's Ray Bullock, which we just did in the title search. So that I'll show you that you can do the same thing in a variety of different ways. Okay. Now, I'm just going to click search. You have to scroll down to see, but it will show you how many are there. Okay, 157 citations. Okay. Same as what we got before. But what if I want to limit this only to articles published in a certain journal? Okay, you can use this limitation feature, this limiting feature here, and you can limit your search to only articles that are published in a specific journal. Let's say I want to find only articles written about Alexander Pope's Ray Bullock in a journal called 18th Century Studies. Okay. Here. 18th Century Studies is the premier journal in 18th Century Studies. So we know it's refereed, and we know it'll be reputable. Okay. Go back up here, submit my selection. Okay. And now you'll see that it's limited to the following journal, 18th Century Studies. I also want to make sure it's English, just to be on the safe side. Let's search. Okay. So instead of Ray Bullock having 157 citations, you've got 2. Okay. And these are the journals. Sorry, these are the articles that have been published on Pope's Ray Bullock in this particular journal. Okay. Let's go back to the search page, and let's clear this. I don't want to limit it to this particular journal. I want to get more results. So I'm going to clear those selections, and then go back to the search. And you'll notice that that's been cleared. I want to keep it in English, though, so we'll go ahead and set. Search for them, and 148. So several of those essays were written in another language. Now, you want to browse through these just a little bit in general. I mean, I don't want to read all 148 articles, okay? There are going to be, quite a few. But I do want to get a sense of how the citations are arranged, because that will then tell us how we can refine our searches. So thus ends the second section of this video tutorial on using the MLA Bibliography to conduct research. This section gave you some basic information about the different kinds of searches available in the bibliography. In the next section, I will give you some more detailed information about conducting research, and we'll be modeling some techniques for doing that. We'll also be finding useful materials and learning how to order those titles.